Hello, hello.
Hi,
We got mom again. Yay. So I am Lisa, and
Dola.
this is a Three of Skeins podcast. We're doing a special little series where we talk about how you can create a look off the runway or uh, a commercial item where there's no pattern for it. So just kind of how to freestyle it. And this is part two. I will link to part one in the description bar below. So, Ma, when we last talked about this, we left off at analyzing the piece, really taking a close look at it.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to put up your inspiration piece. So, this is the piece that you saw. There's no pattern for it anywhere, and you wanted to make it.
Yeah. And so I took a good look and I figured out it was something that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step is swatching.
All right. So, talk to us about that.
Well, when I'm making something, especially from, a picture or something,
Mm-hmm.
I swatch. My first swatch might be in any yarn that I might have,
Right.
just to see what stitch I want to use, how it's going to look, what the stitch pattern is going to be.
Yeah.
So once I figure that out, I do the official swatch.
No. Why is it the official swatch?
Because it's usually the swatch that I'm going to in the yarn that I'm
Right.
going to use, the stitch pattern that I'm going to use for that.
So you already at this point know what hook you want to use and what yarn you want to use.
Yes.
Okay.
So for this project, this was my official swatch.
Yeah, let me hold that up close to the camera. And this thing is absolutely weightless and deliciously soft.
Okay, now I got to the yarn, and this is a different color from the actual project because I originally was going to make it in this color, but I realized I didn't have enough
Mm-hmm.
of the yarn. So I switched same yarn, but a different color.
I'm actually kind of glad you did because there's more contrast between the two colors you're actually going with than this. This looks like almost like it's all one color.
Yeah. So now that I made this once I had the stitch pattern,
Mm-hmm.
the hook, everything that I needed to know
Mm-hmm.
in that respect to make this project. And then other things you need to know is how much yarn how much yarn do I need? How many stitches do I need?
Right.
How many rows do I need? And there comes the math, which is not my favorite part. Because like I've developed into this where I do all this. You know that back in the day, I just took up my hook and I played until I had something done.
Right.
I'm trying to be more systematic. So I do all that figuring out.
And where did you get the information that you needed to have as to how to figure out? Where did you get your method for figuring out how much yarn you need and how
Well,
many rows and all that?
the first place that kind of worked well for me, for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
was this book. It's by, I always mess up these people's names.
Shannon Mullet Bowlesby, right?
Yes,
And Jason Mullet Bowlesby.
yes. And they have worksheets
Mm-hmm.
that, you just plug in the numbers that you need. How many stitches do you have in your swatch? How many rows do you have in your swatch? What does your swatch weigh? And using those pieces of information, you're able to figure out
Yeah, I'll take that.
what you need.
So the book is called The Complete Crochet Course, The Ultimate Reference Guide. And I think the name is actually correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a really good book if you really want to, make things that give you a lot of information and how to construct a garment and have it fit.
Okay. And I will be putting a link to this book in the description bar below.
And since then, I found another source for calculating because sometimes I drive myself crazy because it's a worksheet and you like I said, you just plug in whatever they tell you to plug in.
Mm-hmm.
I had this thing where it was like part of it was on the back of a sheet, so I totally skipped that part. So of course, the rest that I got didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I also found a place online where you would plug in and it does the calculation for you.
Oh, what's the
And it's
website?
called goodknitsesses.com. So you might check that out.
Okay, and I will also link to that in the description bar.
Yeah.
Now, what does that website do for you?
It's pretty much the same thing. It tells you, the numbers that you gain from measuring your swatch and counting your rows and counting
Your stitches.
your stitches. You plug those in and they do the calculation. So
Oh,
you
so it
don't,
just spits out how much yarn you're
yeah,
gonna need.
or how many rows you're gonna need or how many stitches you're
Oh,
gonna need.
nice. Okay.
So you don't have to drive yourself crazy with the calculator and missing that back page.
Okay. I see we've had some things
Oh,
go
well, I can
wrong.
tell you.
Okay.
So that's how that's the reason for the swatching. The swatching gives you a lot of information. Also, it tells you other things because like this seems to be in one piece going from sleeve to sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's going to be a pain in the neck. So I decided that I would just attach the sleeves to the side seam, but I was like, I don't know how that would look. So I was able to try it
On your
on the
swatch.
side of my swatch, and
Yep.
I'm like, oh, that'll work fine. So that's what I did. Well, I didn't get up to the sleeve yet, but that's what I'm going to do.
But you've kind of already tested it because you did it on
Yeah,
the
because I
swatch.
didn't want to have like a seam there, so it would
Yeah.
be an obvious seam. But this was just like picking up those same stitches like I've been doing all along.
So it
So,
became one continuous piece of fabric.
yes.
Nice. Now, what I've also wanted to add to this conversation is that doing your swatch can also tell you what yarn not to use.
Yes. Yes.
Because in our last episode, I talked about a piece that I would like to knock off, and I'm going to use Mom's method to do it. And this was the piece I saw. Like I said, this is the one and only picture I've ever been able to find of Queen Latifah wearing this thing. And I was like, I'm going to make me one of those. And I had this yarn that I absolutely fell in love with, and I found the stitch pattern for it. And as when I finished with my swatching process, I was like, I love this yarn, I love this stitch pattern, but I don't love it for this piece. So I am still on a quest to find the appropriate yarn for my
Yeah.
piece.
I'm actually doing that now with something else that I want to make because I picked a yarn and I tried it and I'm still like, do I like this? Is it too fine? So I tried another yarn and worked on the stitches a little bit and I think I'm going to come back to the first one. But I'm going back and forth. Is this the appropriate yarn for the next thing that I want to make?
But that's another thing that the swatching process can tell you. Sometimes the yarn just isn't right for what you want to do. And it could be for any reason, really.
Yeah.
Not enough drape, too heavy, too light.
Too light, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to continue your swatching process until you are like, what was the girl with the three bears?
Just right.
Yeah, so it's just right. Once you know your rows and stitches, let's say you either use the worksheet you were talking about or you use that program. What can you do to make sure that the numbers are right? Based on your swatch.
You can measure as you go along to make
Okay.
sure that you're getting the exact thing that you want. And then sometimes you don't want the exact thing because as you start working on it, you say, oh, I think it's a little bit more than I thought, but I like it this way.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I was talking to you about is that you make something and by the time you finish the whole thing, it's shrunk a little or it's a little bit longer, and then you
Yeah.
get to decide, hey, can I live with this? Do I like it?
Yes.
you know. So sometimes it's not an exact science,
Yeah.
but it gets you closer than not having those tools at all.
Oh, okay. I think that was. Thank you, Mom. That really works.
And
That really works.
would you like to see what I'm up to?
Yes.
So right now I'm almost up to the sleeves on this. I'm doing it in Tunisian, so I still have the cord embedded. But this is what I have so far on this piece.
Oh wow. Okay, let's. I'm gonna take a quick look at the inspiration piece. Yeah, that's it, Mom.
And like I said the
That's
last
it.
time, this is the side I'm working on.
Hmm.
But it turned out that the inside of the piece is closer
It actually is.
to the look of the inspiration piece. So this is the inside of the piece.
Yeah, that's it right there. Well, join us for the next episode of how to knock off your inspiration piece. Next time. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.